My 13-year-old niece giggled. Mom says, if you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice. While opening the $850 phone I bought her, all 30 guests laughed except me. I nodded, and with 2 taps, I shut down every payment, credit bills, subscriptions. Gone. That night, I moved out, cut contact, and vanished, leaving behind only a black backpack. Inside, they found, "Thank you for being here with me today. I hope you're having a peaceful day wherever you are. If you're watching this around the holidays, especially alone, I'd love for you to share in the comments where you are and how you're spending this season. It means a lot that you're here. Now, let's begin this story together." The living room was a circus, balloons bobbing in the corners, red and gold, tied to chairs creaking under the weight of cousins and neighbors. The air smelled of pizza grease and cheap wine, the kind my sister Lindsay poured to seem classy. It was Emily's 13th birthday, and the place was packed, 30 voices clashing, laughter bouncing off the walls of her suburban McMansion. Emily's friends clustered around her, snapping pics of the shiny new iPhone for their Snapchat stories, her fingers peeling back the plastic film like it was Christmas morning. I stood by the doorway, the crumpled wrapping paper at my feet, my face burning. My heartbeat thundered, drowning out the chatter. Lindsay sprawled on the couch, scrolling her phone, her smirk sharp as a blade. She didn't look up, but I saw it, a flicker of satisfaction, like she'd planned this, like she wanted me to feel small. Mom was in the kitchen, fussing with cupcakes, her shoulders lifting in a silent chuckle. Dad, nursing a Bud Light, snorted and raised his can. "Well, she ain't wrong," he muttered, his voice thick with amusement. I was the fool, the one who paid for Lindsay's rent when she blew her paycheck on a new SUV, the one who covered Mom's medical bills when her insurance lapsed, the one who bailed Dad out when he gambled away half his pension. And now, I was nothing. Just a punchline at a kid's birthday party. "Thanks for the phone, Uncle Jake," Emily chirped, already lost in her screen. Leaning into her mom's side, I nodded, because that's what I did. Always nodding, always pretending, but something inside me cracked, a fault line splitting open, the heat of it searing my chest. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The 2 taps I'd made on my phone were louder than anything I could have said. The kitchen was quieter, a temporary refuge from the chaos. I leaned against the counter, watching them gather around the birthday cake. Mom lit the candles, her hands steady, her smile practiced. "All right, everyone, let's sing," she called, her voice bright, sweeping away the tension like it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was everything. The taste of betrayal clung to my tongue, bitter and thick, like coffee left too long on the burner. I slipped my hand into my pocket, my fingers brushing against my phone. They didn't know it yet, but I'd been carrying them for years. Lindsay's rent, Mom's pills, Dad's debts, Emily's summer camp, all of it ran through my accounts. I'd set up auto-pays, credit lines, subscriptions, because that's what family does, right? You help, you fix, you sacrifice. But what do you get when you're the only one holding up the house? 2 taps. That's all it took. My thumb moved over the screen, opening the banking app, navigating to the linked accounts. I didn't think, I didn't hesitate. I just did it. 1 tap to select every payment, every bill, every lifeline I'd tied to them. Another tap to cancel. Gone. Just like that. The voices in the living room blurred into a distant hum, like a radio losing signal. My pulse slowed, and for the first time that night, I felt something close to control. They didn't notice. Of course they didn't. They were too busy singing happy birthday, their voices off-key, their laughter spilling over like cheap beer. I watched them, my family, my blood, and they felt like strangers. The candles flickered, casting shadows on their faces, and I wondered how long it would take for them to realize what I'd done, how long before the lights went out. The phones went dead. The safety net vanished. I didn't say goodbye. I slipped out the front door, the night air cool against my skin, the weight of the party lifting with every step. My car was parked down the street, a beat-up sedan that hadn't seen a wax in years. I drove home in silence, the radio off, the city lights blurring past like fireflies. My apartment was small, cluttered. A place I'd never bothered to make my own. It was just a pit stop. A place to crash between fixing everyone else's messes. But tonight, it was something else. A starting line? I didn't pack much. A few shirts, a pair of jeans, my laptop essentials shoved into a duffel bag. Then I saw it, tucked in the corner of my closet, half forgotten under a pile of old jackets. The black backpack. It was worn, the straps frayed, but it felt right in my hands, like it had been waiting for this moment. I didn't fill it with my things, not clothes, not keepsakes. Instead, I stuffed it with papers, bank statements, receipts, proof of every dollar I'd poured into their lives. Every sacrifice, every late night working overtime, every dream I'd deferred to keep them afloat. It wasn't a gift. It was a reckoning. I drove back to Lindsay's house. The party was still going, music spilling through the windows, silhouettes dancing against the curtains. No one saw me slip inside, move down the hallway, and leave the backpack by the stairs. It sat there, unassuming, a shadow among the chaos. Let them find it. Let them try to understand. I walked back to my car, the gravel crunching under my boots. The night was quiet now, the stars sharp against the sky. I didn't look back. For the first time in years, I didn't need to. I was gone. The sun was barely up when the pounding started. My apartment door rattled like it was about to come off its hinges, each thud a fist of rage. I sat on my couch, coffee gone cold in my mug, staring at the door. I didn't need to open it to know who was out there. Dad's voice roared through the wood, thick with the kind of anger that used to make me shrink as a kid. "Jake, open this damn door. You think you can just do this?" His words slurred, probably from last night's beer still lingering in his system. I stayed quiet, my pulse steady, my hands still. Last night, I'd walked away from Lindsay's house, from the laughter, from the black backpack I left like a silent bomb. 2 taps on my phone had severed every financial tether: Lindsay's rent, Mom's prescriptions, Dad's car payments. Gone. Just like they said I was nothing. I leaned back, letting the couch creak under me, and waited. Silence was my answer now. The pounding stopped, replaced by the sharp ping of my phone. A text from Mom, one line, like a knife. "How could you do this to your own family?" I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The phone buzzed again. Then again, a swarm of notifications. Lindsay this time. 6 missed calls in 10 minutes. Then a voicemail. I hit play. Her voice shrill, cracking like glass. "You think you're clever? Jake, cutting us off. You'll regret this. We don't need you." Her words dripped with venom. But there was something else, a tremor. A crack in her usual swagger. Fear. I smiled. Not out of joy, but because it felt like a promise. They were starting to feel it. The weight of their own words. No one would notice. Well, they noticed now. My phone lit up again. Another text from Lindsay. "You think we can't survive without you? Watch us." I set the phone face down on the coffee table. Let them try. An hour later, I heard tires screech outside. I peeked through the blinds, seeing Dad's old Chevy parked crooked in the lot. He was pacing, his face red, his hands waving like he was arguing with the air. Mom stood by the car, her arms crossed, her eyes darting toward my window. I didn't move. I wasn't playing their game anymore. Dad shouted something, a curse swallowed by the morning breeze, then slammed his door and peeled out. The quiet that followed was heavy, like the air before a storm, but it wasn't over. I knew them too well. Family doesn't let go that easy. Not when they're used to you carrying their weight. My phone buzzed again. Another voicemail, this time from Mom. Her voice was softer, pleading. "Jake, please. We're your family. We didn't mean it. Let's fix this. Fix it." Like I was the one who broke it. Like I was the one who laughed while they spent my money. I deleted the message, my thumb steady, my heart colder than it had ever been. They'd find the backpack soon. Those papers, every receipt, every bank statement, every proof of their dependence were waiting. Let them see what nothing really looked like. The fluorescent lights in my office buzzed like a swarm of bees, a constant drone that usually faded into the background. But today, it grated on my nerves. each hum amplifying the headache building behind my eyes. I was halfway through a spreadsheet when I saw her through the glass wall of the open plan office. Lindsay. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a messy bun, her face pale and blotchy, like she'd been crying or screaming or both. She stood at the receptionist's desk, her hands flailing, her voice loud enough to turn heads. "I need to see Jake." Now. I didn't move. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, my jaw tight. The receptionist, Karen, shot me a confused glance, but I kept my eyes on the screen, pretending to focus. Lindsay's voice rose, sharp and desperate. "He's my brother. You can't keep me out." I could feel the stares of my co-workers, the whispers starting to ripple through the cubicles. My boss, Mike, appeared at the door, his tie loose, his face a mix of annoyance and discomfort. "Jake, there's a situation," he said, his voice low. "She's nobody," I said, not looking up. The words came out colder than I meant, but they felt right. Lindsay wasn't my sister right now. She was just another voice demanding something I no longer owed. Security stepped in, two guys in ill-fitting uniforms, guiding her toward the elevator. She didn't go quietly. "You're a coward, Jake," she shouted, her voice echoing as the doors closed. "You think you can just erase us." I didn't flinch. I didn't look. I just kept typing, the clack of the keys drowning out the last of her screams. That night, I came home to find my apartment door ajar. My stomach dropped, a cold weight settling in my gut. I pushed it open, slow, my keys clutched like a weapon. Dad stood in the middle of my living room, his face red, sweat beading on his forehead despite the October chill. Mom was behind him, her hands wringing a dish towel she must have grabbed from my kitchen. "You think you can just lock us out?" Dad bellowed, his voice shaking the cheap IKEA lamp on my coffee table. "Get out," I said, my voice calm but sharp, like a blade. I leaned against the counter, still in my coat, my hair damp from the drizzle outside. "Get out." Dad laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. "You ungrateful little punk. You think you're better than us?" He stepped closer, his fists clenched, his breath sour with whiskey. Mom moved forward, her eyes wide, frantic. "Jake, please," she said, her voice shrill. "We raised you. We're your family. You can't do this." "You used me," I corrected, folding my arms. "There's a difference." The words hung in the air, heavy, undeniable. I could see it in their faces, the flicker of guilt, quickly buried under anger and desperation. Dad's hand twitched, like he wanted to swing, but I didn't budge. I wasn't the kid who cowered anymore. "The cards don't work," Mom said, her voice breaking. "Lindsay's behind on rent. The mortgage, Jake. It's all gone." "That's right," I said, nodding. "Everything I paid for. Everything I carried. It's done." Dad's face twisted, his voice a snarl. "You think you're so powerful? You think we need you? Seems like you do," I said, my gaze steady. "Since you broke into my apartment to beg." "Beg," Dad roared, stepping closer, his shadow looming. "You think we're begging?" "Enough," I snapped, my voice cutting through his like a whip. "I'm done being your ATM, your fix-it guy, your doormat. Get out. Now." Mom's hands flew to her face, tears spilling over. "This is cruel. Jake." "Cruel. Cruel." I laughed. The sound sharp, unfamiliar. Cruel is laughing in my face while I pay your bills. Cruel is calling me nothing while I keep your lights on. I pointed to the door. "Out." Dad's shoulders slumped, his bravado crumbling like ash. Mom grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the door, her sobs muffled. They left, the door slamming behind them, the sound echoing in the empty apartment. I stood there, my heart pounding, but not with fear, with certainty. They'd be back. I knew it. And when they did, they'd find that backpack, those papers, the truth I'd left behind. Let them choke on it. The stadium roared like a living beast, a sea of cheers and stomping feet vibrating through the metal bleachers. It was a crisp Saturday afternoon, the kind where the air smells of hot dogs and spilled beer, and the crowd's energy could drown out anything secrets. lies, even the truth. I walked down the steps of Section 12, Row F, my boots heavy on the concrete, my eyes locked on Dad. He sat alone, the seats around him empty despite the packed game. His hand gripped the black backpack. My backpack. Like it was a trophy he'd won. His face lit up when he saw me, a twisted smile curling his lips. Like he thought he'd already beaten me. Surprised you showed, he shouted over the crowd, patting the seat next to him, finally ready to talk like men. Huh? His voice was smug, but his eyes darted, nervous, like a man holding a bad hand in poker. Talk, I said, settling into the seat, my gaze fixed on the backpack. Is that what this is? The crowd erupted as the home team scored, a wave of red and white jerseys surging to their feet. But I didn't flinch. Neither did Dad. We were in our own world now, a pocket of tension amid the chaos. Oh, it's more than that, he said, leaning in, his voice dropping to a whisper, barely audible over the roar. You thought you were smart, Jake. Running away, cutting us off. But you left this behind. He tapped the backpack, his fingers drumming a slow, deliberate rhythm. We found it. And guess what? Genius. We know what? I asked, my voice calm. Steady, like the cold wind whipping across the field. My heart pounded. But not with fear. Not anymore. Your secrets. Your lies. His voice sharpened, his eyes flashing with a mix of anger and triumph. You think you're clean? That you're better than us. You've been hiding things. I should have known. All those years playing the saint. The savior. He leaned closer, his breath sour with stale beer. You're no better than us. I almost laughed. The irony was rich, heavy, like the weight of the papers in that backpack. Open it then, I said, nodding at the bag. Let's see what you think you know. His eyes narrowed, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. Don't play games. He snapped. I don't need to open it. I know you've been stealing from us, manipulating, acting like some martyr while hiding your stash. I leaned back, the cold metal of the seat biting into my spine. The only stash in there is the truth. The crowd roared again, a touchdown sending beer cups flying. But our corner stayed quiet, the air thick with unspoken threats. You're bluffing, he muttered, his hand tightening on the backpack, knuckles white. You're trying to make me doubt, but it's over. We're telling everyone what kind of person you are, how you abandoned your family. Go ahead, I said, gesturing to the sea of strangers around us, their faces painted, their voices raw from cheering. Tell them how I paid Lindsay's rent for 2 years, how I covered your debts when you blew half your pension at the casino, how I bought that iPhone for your precious granddaughter just before she called me nothing. My voice was low, steady, each word a blade. His face darkened, his jaw twitching. Shut up, he growled, his voice barely a whisper now. No, I said, leaning forward, my eyes burning into his. Let's make it clear. Dad, that backpack's full of proof, every receipt, every bank statement. Every time I bailed you out, you want leverage. You've got a bag full of your own shame. He stood, the backpack slipping to the seat, his hands shaking. Don't you talk to me like that, he shouted, drawing glances from the row behind us. A couple of guys in jerseys turned, phones out, sensing drama. Sit down, I said, my voice ice cold, unwavering. For a moment, I saw it fear in his eyes. Not just anger, but fear of losing control, of being exposed, or what? He forced a laugh, but it was thin, desperate. You gonna attack your own father? You think anyone here will take your side? You think they'll take yours? I gestured to the crowd, their cheers a distant thunder. You're just an angry old man with a bag full of debts. They don't know me, but they don't need to. He swung. I saw it coming. His fist slow, trembling, aiming for my face. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. He wanted a reaction, a scene, proof I was the villain in his story, but his hand stopped inches from me, shaking, his breath ragged. I should have left you on the streets, he whispered, his voice breaking. You were always a parasite. Funny, I whispered back. leaning so close I could smell the beer on him. That's exactly what I thought about you. Something in him broke. His hand fell. His shoulders slumped. The fight draining out of him like air from a punctured tire. The crowd's roar swallowed his silence, the perfect cover for his collapse. I reached out, grabbed the backpack, and yanked it from the seat. He didn't resist. Want to know what's in here? I said, loud enough for the gawkers to hear. I unzipped it, pulling out a thick stack of papers, bank records, bills, proof of every dollar I'd poured into their lives. Everything I did for you, every sacrifice. People were staring now, whispering, some filming. You want the truth? I stood, holding the papers high. Here it is. I carried you. I saved your house from foreclosure twice, and you betrayed me the day you laughed and called me nothing. Stop, Dad whispered, sinking into the seat, his face pale. No, I said. You wanted a scene. You got one. I tossed the papers at his feet, and they scattered, fluttering down the steps like dead leaves. I turned, walking up the bleachers, past the staring faces, the pointed phones. His voice cracked behind me. You can't just leave. But I didn't stop. For the first time, his words meant nothing. The morning after the stadium, my phone was a war zone. Notifications piled up like unpaid bills, missed calls, texts, voicemails, each one a desperate claw at the silence I'd built. I sat at my kitchen table, a half-eaten bagel in front of me, the coffee maker hissing in the background. The screen lit up again. Dad. Mom. Lindsay. A relentless cycle of names I used to run toward. Now, I let them burn out like dying stars. Dad's first voicemail was pure rage, his voice raw from shouting into the void of Section 12. You think you can humiliate me like that? Jake? You're done. By the third, his tone cracked. Pleading? Son, let's talk. Forget the papers. We're family. I deleted it before he finished. Mom's messages were softer, guilt-laced, each one a stab at my resolve. Jake, we're falling apart. Please. You're all we have. I didn't read the rest. Lindsay's texts were a storm of venom. Then desperation. You've ruined us. You coward? Everything's gone. Then, an hour later, I didn't mean it. Just talk to me. I swiped them away, my thumb steady, my coffee bitter. They didn't get it. They thought I was playing a game, that I'd crack under their noise like I always had. But the papers I'd scattered at Dad's feet, bank statements, mortgage payments, proof of their dependence, weren't just a scene. They were my exit. The truth I'd carried for years. Now their burden? Let them choke on it. By noon, the calls slowed, but the consequences didn't. My landlord called, his voice awkward, hesitant. Jake, your sister's been calling the office? Says she's behind on rent. Thought you'd cover it. I told him it wasn't my problem. He paused, then hung up. Later, a friend of Mom's from church sent me a DM on Facebook, asking why I'd abandoned them. I blocked her. The world they'd built on my dime was crumbling, and I wasn't lifting a finger to stop it. That evening, I walked to the corner store, the October air sharp against my skin. My phone buzzed again, a photo from Mom, the family sitting around their dining table, a single candle flickering in the dark. The power was out. We have nothing left. Her caption read. I stared at it, the glow of my screen casting shadows on the sidewalk. For a moment, I felt it a tug of guilt, the old reflex to fix their mess. But it passed like a cloud over the moon. I deleted the photo and kept walking. They were falling apart. Good. For the first time, I wasn't. The stadium had changed me. Tossing those papers wasn't just a moment, it was a line in the sand. I'd carried them for too long, and now they'd have to face the truth without me. The black backpack, still out there somewhere, was my final word. They'd find it again. Maybe they'd burn it. Either way, it wasn't my weight to carry anymore. I was done. The world felt different now, lighter, like the air after a summer rain. I woke up when I wanted, the alarm clock gathering dust on my nightstand. My apartment, once just a crash pad between fixing my family's messes, was starting to feel like mine. I hung a cheap canvas print of the Rockies on the wall, Bought a new coffee mug with a cheesy "Live Your Truth" slogan. Small things. But they were mine choices made for me, not them. I stopped checking my phone. The notifications had trickled to nothing. The voicemails and texts from Dad, Mom, and Lindsay fading into silence. I'd shoved the phone into the bottom drawer of my desk, next to a stack of old bills I no longer paid. Silence became a friend, a quiet I hadn't known in years. No frantic calls about late rent, no guilt trips about Mom's meds, no demands to bail Dad out of another bad bet. Just me, my thoughts, and the hum of the city outside. I started taking walks, long ones, through the streets of Denver. The city had always been there, but I'd never really seen it, not like this. I wandered past food trucks on Larimer Street, their neon signs buzzing, the smell of tacos and fried dough mixing with the crisp October air. I'd stop at a park bench, watch kids chase each other around a playground, their laughter free of the weight I used to carry. One Saturday, I found myself at a farmer's market, buying a loaf of sourdough and a jar of local honey, just because I felt like it. No one to impress, no one to save, just me. Work was different too. Without the constant drain of family demands, I had energy to spare. I stayed late one night, not because I had to, but because I wanted to finish a project. Mike, my boss, noticed, gave me a nod and a good work. Jake. It was small, but it landed different now, like it mattered. Like I mattered. I wasn't the guy who fixed everyone else's problems anymore. I was just Jake, and that was enough. The black backpack was gone, probably still sitting in Lindsay's house or burned to ash by Dad's anger. I didn't care. Those papers, that truth I'd thrown at his feet in the stadium, had done their job. They weren't my burden anymore. I'd carried them long enough. Now, I was free not just from their demands, but from the version of me that thought I needed them to feel whole. Silence wasn't empty. It was space, room to breathe. To be, one evening, as the sun dipped below the Denver skyline, painting the sky in shades of amber and crimson, I found myself on a busy corner of 16th Street Mall. A street musician was playing, his guitar case open, a few crumpled bills scattered inside. His voice was rough, unpolished, singing a song about letting go, about walking away from what breaks you. His fingers danced over the strings, the melody slow, aching, like it was pulling something out of me I didn't know was still there. I stopped, leaning against a lamppost, letting the music wrap around me. It wasn't about love or heartbreak. It was about freedom, about choosing yourself. I thought about the stadium, the papers scattering like dead leaves, the way Dad's face crumpled when he realized he'd lost his grip on me. I thought about Mom's tearful voicemails, Lindsay's venomous texts, the family that had taken everything and given nothing back. They were ghosts now, shadows I'd left behind in a house that no longer felt like home. The song ended, and I tossed a 20 into the guitar case. The musician nodded, his eyes crinkling with a quiet gratitude. I smiled back not because I had to, not because someone expected it, but because I wanted to. That was the difference. I didn't need their approval, their love, their demands. I never did. I was enough. As I walked away, the city alive around me, I felt it a quiet certainty, like a stone settling in my chest. I'd buried them, not in the ground, but in my life. They'd keep falling, keep reaching, keep blaming me for their broken world, but I was done carrying their weight. I'd found my own light, my own path, and it was brighter than I'd ever imagined. If you're out there, holding someone else's chaos, ask yourself, what's stopping you from letting go? You don't need their permission to walk away. You don't need their validation to be whole. You are enough. Take that first step, even if it's just a quiet one, and find your own freedom. The world is waiting,